Before he died, Carson revealed the 9 secretly biracial guests who confessed to him. For 30 years, Carson brought America's biggest stars into living rooms across the country. His warm smile and easy laugh made viewers feel like they were watching old friends catch up over coffee. But when the camera stopped rolling and the audience went home, Carson carried secrets that music would have instantly destroyed the careers of some of his most famous guests. Johnny knew things about people that nobody else in television knew, revealed a former Tonight Show producer who worked with Carson for over a decade. Stars would come on the show looking like the picture of all-American wholesomeness, and Johnny would just sit there smiling, knowing their entire identity was something they had been hiding from the world since the day they arrived in Hollywood. In his final years, Carson became increasingly candid with his inner circle about the elaborate racial deceptions he had witnessed throughout his career. Stars who had changed their names, altered their faces, fabricated entire backstories, and in one case pretended their own mother was a servant, all to hide the mixed-race heritage that would destroy everything they had built. Most shocking was his revelation about the beloved Broadway legend who sat on Carson's couch dozens of times while hiding the fact that her father's birth certificate described him as colored, music, and the stunning World War II pinup girl whose studio put her through 2 years of painful surgery to erase music, every trace of her Latina heritage, transforming her so completely that the woman who appeared on screen bore no resemblance to the girl who had been born with a completely different name and a completely different face. These were not celebrities with interesting family trees. Music, according to Carson, these were people whose entire careers depended on a lie about who they really were. The weight of those secrets followed these stars from the makeup chair to the grave. But first, we start with music, the guest whose racial secret was so deeply buried that even she did not know the truth until she was a teenager leaving home for college. Number 9, Carol Channing, the Broadway legend whose father was listed as colored. When Carol Channing appeared on The Tonight Show, and she appeared many times across 3 decades, viewers saw the beloved star of Hello, Dolly, the larger-than-life Broadway icon with the wide eyes and the distinctive raspy voice that made her one of the most recognizable performers in American entertainment. Her blonde hair, fair skin, and exaggerated features made her seem as all-American as apple pie. Nobody watching at home would have guessed that her paternal grandmother was Black. Carol Channing did not even know herself until she was 16 years old. In 1937, as she was packing her bags to leave home for Bennington College, her mother sat her down and told her the truth. Her father, George Channing, was the son of a German-American father and a Black mother. His birth certificate in Augusta, Georgia, described him as colored. Her mother's reason for finally telling her was as blunt as it was heartbreaking. She said she was only telling Carol, so she would not be surprised if she one day had a Black baby. Channing's reaction, at least publicly, was remarkably graceful. In her 2002 autobiography, Just Lucky I Guess, published when she was 81 years old, she wrote that she thought she had the greatest genes in show business. She told Larry King on CNN that she was proud of her Black ancestry. But what she also admitted was that she had kept the secret for her entire career because she did not want to be TYP cast on Broadway and in Hollywood. Think about what that means. For over 6 decades, music, one of Broadway's biggest stars, performed night after night, won Tony Awards, earned an Oscar nomination, became a household name, and she did all of it while hiding the fact that her own grandmother was Black. She knew that if the truth came out during the height of her career in the 1950s and 1960s, the industry would have treated her differently. The roles would have dried up, the opportunities would have disappeared. Carson knew. According to former staff members, he was one of several people in the entertainment industry who were aware of Channing's mixed-race background long before she went public with it. A former Tonight Show producer recalled that Carson found the situation deeply troubling. Here was a woman who had to hide her own family history to survive in the business he had devoted his life to. Every time she sat on his couch and music, they laughed together. Both of them knew there was a truth in the room that neither could acknowledge. Channing waited until she was 81 to tell the world. Music, she carried the secret for an entire lifetime and only felt safe enough to speak when her career was essentially over. While Channing's secret was hidden even from herself for 16 years, Carson's next guest went even further, hiding her heritage from her own children and passing off her own mother as a domestic servant. Number 8. Merle Oberon, the Oscar nominee who erased an entire country. When Merle Oberon appeared in Hollywood films throughout the 1930s, 1940s, and 1950s, audiences saw an elegant porcelain-skinned English beauty. She earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress for The Dark Angel in 1935 and starred opposite Laurence Olivier in Wuthering Heights. Her official biography stated she was born in Tasmania, Australia, to white British parents. Every single word of that was a lie. Merle Oberon was born Estelle Merle O'Brien Thompson in Bombay, India in 1911. Her mother, Charlotte, was of Sri Lankan Burgher and Maori descent. Her father was a white Englishman who died in World War I when Merle was 3 years old. She grew up in extreme poverty in Kolkata, and she was mixed race in a colonial society that treated people of mixed heritage as beneath contempt. When she arrived in England as a young woman seeking an acting career, she understood immediately that the truth about her background would end everything before it began. So she invented a new identity. She claimed Tasmania as her birthplace and said her birth records had been destroyed in a fire. She changed her name. She changed her accent. She changed her entire history. But the most painful deception was what she did to her own mother. Charlotte traveled with Merle to England and eventually to Hollywood. Rather than acknowledge Charlotte as her mother, Merle introduced her as her maid, Music, her own mother. The woman who had raised her in poverty in Kolkata was presented to Hollywood society as her domestic servant so that no one would look at Charlotte's dark skin and ask uncomfortable questions. Charlotte lived this lie for the rest of her life. She died in 1937, still publicly known as Merle Oberon's maid, never once acknowledged by her own daughter as family when a half-brother who had moved to Canada traveled to Los Angeles specifically to reconnect with her. She turned him away at the door. She could not risk anyone from her real life, unraveling the fiction she had built. The truth was not confirmed until 1983, for years after her death, when biographers tracked down her birth certificate in Indian government records. Carson, who was aware of the persistent rumors about Oberon's background throughout his career, reportedly described her situation as one of the saddest things he had ever learned about old Hollywood. A woman so terrified of her own identity that she disowned her mother and her entire country to survive. While Oberon erased an entire continent from her identity, Carson's next guest underwent something even more physically extreme. A surgical transformation so complete that the woman who appeared on screen was virtually unrecognizable from the girl who had been born with a different name, a different hairline, and a different face. Number 7. Rita Worth, the pinup girl who was surgically made white. When Rita Worth appeared as the glamorous star of Gilda and CoverGirl, she was America's love goddess. The auburn-haired beauty with the fair skin and the dazzling smile was the most famous pinup girl of World War II. Soldiers carried her photograph into battle. She was married to Orson Welles and then to a literal prince. She was, as far as the American public was concerned, the definition of white American beauty. Her real name was Margarita Carmen Canino. She was the daughter of Eduardo Canino, a Spanish dancer, and Volga Highworth, an Irish-American Ziegfeld showgirl. She grew up performing traditional flamenco and Spanish folk dances with her father in clubs between San Diego and Tijuana. She was dark-haired with olive skin and a low, distinctly Mediterranean hairline. She looked exactly like what she was, a Latina. When Columbia Pictures decided she had star potential, studio head Harry Kahn ordered a complete transformation. Music. For 2 years, Margarita underwent weekly sessions of painful electrolysis to raise her hairline nearly an inch, removing the feature the studio considered too ethnic. Her jet black hair was dyed, or her name was changed to Rita Worth, a variation of her mother's Irish maiden name. Her Spanish heritage was scrubbed from every piece of publicity material the studio produced. The studio ran before and after photographs in fan magazines, celebrating the transformation from dark-haired ethnic girl to all-American star as if it were a triumph rather than a tragedy. Worth herself was deeply conflicted. She once said, "Music. Every man I knew went to bed with Gilda and woke up with me." The Rita Worth that America loved did not exist. She was a manufactured product. The real woman, Margarita Canino, had been surgically and cosmetically erased to make a version of herself that Hollywood deemed acceptable. Carson, who was aware of Worth's transformation, reportedly found the Rita Worth story one of the most disturbing examples of how far Hollywood would go to enforce its racial standards. A former producer recalled him saying that they did not just change her name, they changed music, her face, and then they made her pretend she was happy about it. While Rita Worth was physically transformed by a studio, Carson's next guest had his background rewritten by a publicist who decided that the truth about where he music came from was simply unacceptable for an American star. Number 6. Anthony Quinn, the Mexican revolutionary son who was made Irish. When Anthony Quinn appeared on The Tonight Show, viewers saw a two-time Academy Award winner, one of the most respected actors in Hollywood history. His portrayal of Zorba the Greek became one of cinema's most iconic performances. He played Arabs in Lawrence of Arabia, Italians in La Strada, Frenchmen in Lust for Life. Hollywood cast him as every ethnicity on Earth except his own. Anthony Quinn was born Manuel Antonio Rodolfo Quinn Oaxaca in Chihuahua, Mexico in 1915 during the Mexican Revolution. His mother, Manuela, was of Aztec and Mexican descent. His father, Francisco, was of Irish-Mexican heritage and reportedly rode with Pancho Villa before moving the family to East Los Angeles, where he became an assistant cameraman at a movie studio. When Quinn arrived in Hollywood in the 1930s, his publicist immediately went to work rewriting his background. The official story that went out to the press was that Quinn was the son of an Irish adventurer. The Mexican roots, the revolutionary father, the Aztec grandmother, all of it was erased and replaced with a backstory that sounded more palatable to American audiences. Quinn later disputed the Irish adventure story in his autobiography, calling it a Hollywood fabrication. But for the early decades of his career, Quinn was presented to America as something other than what he was. And when Hollywood did acknowledge his heritage, it was only to typecast him as ethnic villains, Indian chiefs, Arab chieftains, and Mexican bandits. The cruelest irony was his relationship with Cecil B. Deal. Quinn married Deal's daughter, Catherine, which gave him access to Hollywood's highest circles. But Deal himself never fully accepted Quinn because of his Mexican roots. His own father-in-law treated him as lesser because of where he came from. Carson, who interviewed Quinn multiple times, was struck by how openly Quinn discussed discrimination. A former Tonight Show writer recalled that Quinn was one of the few guests who talked candidly about how Hollywood had tried to erase his identity. While Quinn fought to reclaim the identity that had been taken from him, Carson's next guest was told by her own studio that admitting her father's heritage would make her unemployable. Number 5. Raquel Welch, the bombshell who was told Bolivia was a problem. When Raquel Welch became one of the biggest sex symbols in Hollywood history, she was marketed as the ultimate all-American fantasy. Her breakthrough role in 1 Million Years BC in 1966 made her a global icon. Her posters outsold every other celebrity image of the era. Her real name was Jo Raquel Tejada. Her father, Armin Carlos Tejada, was a Bolivian immigrant who worked as an aeronautical engineer. Her mother, Josephine Sarah Hall, was of English descent. Raquel grew up in a household where her Latino heritage was deliberately suppressed. In her 2010 memoir, Beyond the Cleavage, Welch wrote that her upbringing made her feel as though there was something wrong with being from Bolivia. The message she received from her family and later from Hollywood was clear. Her father's heritage was something to be managed, minimized, and ultimately hidden. When she arrived in Hollywood, music studio executives reportedly urged her to lighten her skin and hair and to avoid any public discussion of her Bolivian roots. The name change from Tejada to Welch, her first husband's surname, was convenient because it erased the last visible trace of her Latino identity from her public image. Carson, who interviewed Welch numerous times, was aware of her background. A former staff member recalled that Carson found it telling that even in the 1970s, studios were still pressuring stars to hide who they really were. The machinery of eraser had become so normalized that nobody questioned it anymore. Number 4. John Gavin, the leading man whose heritage became a presidential appointment. When John Gavin appeared in films like Psycho and Spartacus and Imitation of Life, audiences saw a tall, dark, classically handsome leading man music who embodied old Hollywood sophistication. His chiseled features and commanding presence made him a natural choice for romantic leads throughout the 1960s. What audiences did not know was that Gavin, born Juan Vincent Apablaza Gavin, was of Mexican descent. His mother was of Mexican heritage, and his father was of mixed ancestry. Throughout his Hollywood career, this background was carefully managed to avoid interfering with his leading man image. The most remarkable twist came in 1981 when President Ronald Reagan appointed Gavin as the United States ambassador to Mexico, specifically because of the Mexican heritage that Gavin had spent his entire acting career downplaying. Hollywood told John Gavin his Mexican heritage would hurt his career, so he music hit it. Then the President of the United States gave him one of the most prestigious diplomatic posts in the Western Hemisphere precisely because of the identity Hollywood had told him to bury. Carson reportedly found this one of the most ironic moments in Hollywood history. A former colleague recalled him saying that Hollywood spent 20 years pretending John Gavin was not Mexican, and then the White House hired him because he was. Number 3. Dolores Del Rio. The Mexican star Hollywood wanted to be Spanish. When Dolores Del Rio arrived in Hollywood in the 1920s, she was immediately recognized as one of the most beautiful women in the world. Her striking features and magnetic screen presence made her a star in the silent film era, and she successfully transitioned to talkies, appearing in films like Flying Down to Rio and Journey into Fear. But Hollywood had a problem with Dolores Del Rio. She was Mexican, and in the racial hierarchy of 1930s and 1940s Hollywood, Mexican was not acceptable for a leading lady. Spanish, however, was exotic and romantic, European acceptable. Studio publicity departments went to work repositioning Del Rio. Press materials emphasized her aristocratic bearing and European sophistication while carefully avoiding the word Mexican whenever possible. She was described as a Latin beauty, a term vague enough to suggest Spain or France rather than Mexico City. Del Rio resisted this eraser more than many of her contemporaries. She eventually returned to Mexico in the 1940s, where she became one of the biggest stars in Mexican cinema. Her departure from Hollywood was driven by her refusal to continue playing roles that required her to be vaguely foreign rather than specifically and proudly Mexican. Carson saw her story as a clear example of Hollywood's racial ranking system. A former writer recalled Carson observing that Hollywood had decided that certain kinds of foreign were romantic and other kinds were not. While Del Rio fought against the industry that tried to rebrand her, Carson's next guest made the opposite choice, one that cost her nearly everything. Number 2, Freddie Washington, the black actress who refused to pass. Every other person on this list chose to hide their mixed-race identity, music, because Hollywood told them they had to. Freddie Washington is on this list because she refused. Washington was a light-skinned black actress in the 1930s whose features were so fair that she could easily have passed for white. In the 1934 film Imitation of Life, she played a mixed-race woman who denies her black mother to cross the color line, a role that mirrored the exact choice that Hollywood was offering Washington in real life. Studios told her directly that if she would simply stop identifying as black, they would cast her in leading roles opposite white actors. She could have the career that every actress in Hollywood dreamed music of. All she had to do was deny who she was. Washington refused. She told the studios and the press that she was black, and she was proud of it. She refused to wear skin-lightening makeup. She refused to change her name. She refused to fabricate a white backstory. Her friend John-Claude Baker recalled that Washington would pass for white when traveling in the segregated South with Duke Ellington's band, buying ice cream at whites-only counters and bringing it outside to the musicians who were not allowed inside. She did this as subversion, not submission. The consequence was the end of her leading film career. Hollywood could not figure out what to do with a woman who looked white but insisted on being black. Music. She was too light for roles reserved for black actresses and too proudly black for roles available to white actresses. Washington became a founding member of the Negro Actors Guild and became active in the NAACP and the civil rights movement. She chose integrity over stardom, and she paid the price. Carson, who learned about Washington's story from veteran performers, reportedly found her the most admirable figure in Hollywood's racial history. A former producer recalled Carson saying that she was the only one who told them the truth, and they punished her for it while everyone who lied got rewarded. Number 1. The system that made them all hide. In his final years, Johnny Carson reflected not on individual stars who hid their heritage, music, but on the system that forced them to hide. The studio contracts that demanded name changes. The publicity departments that invented false backstories. The surgical procedures that altered faces. The press that never asked the questions everyone knew the answers to. Carol Channing waited until she was 81 to acknowledge her black grandmother. Merle Oberon died without ever admitting she was born in India. Rita Worth had her face surgically altered to erase her Latina features. Music, Anthony Quinn had his publicist invent an Irish father. Raquel Welch was told Bolivia was a problem. John Gavin hid his Mexican heritage until a president decided it was useful. Dolores Del Rio, music, left Hollywood rather than pretend to be Spanish. And Freddie Washington told the truth and lost everything. Every one of them sat on a couch and smiled at the camera while hiding who they really were. Every one of them knew that one wrong word could end everything they had built. Carson understood these were not stories about dishonest people. These were stories about a dishonest system that told performers their talent was not enough if their blood was wrong. He took most of these stories to his grave. But in his final years, he told the people closest to him that the racial deceptions he had witnessed were among the things that troubled him most about the industry he had spent his life in. Not because the stars were wrong to hide, but because America made them feel they had to. Which revelation shocked you most? Did you know about these hidden identities before today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this valuable, do not forget to like and subscribe for more untold stories from Hollywood's complicated past. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.